Flight 217 has landed ahead of schedule, the pilot said. I smiled, thinking I'd surprise Lily. She loved surprises. At least I thought she did. I called her once, no answer. Twice, still nothing. Maybe she was asleep. I drove home through quiet streets, the kind that always made me feel safe. My wedding ring caught the light from a passing car, and I felt proud. I had a wife who loved me, a best friend who'd do anything for me, and a life people envied. I parked outside and saw Ethan's car in the driveway. Probably dropping something off, I muttered. Still, a knot formed in my chest. I pushed the door open. The house was dark except for a faint light from upstairs. My voice echoed softly. Lily, you awake? No answer. I climbed the stairs, careful not to make noise. The light came from our bedroom. The door was slightly open. I heard laughter, low, breathy, intimate. My pulse froze. Ethan, Lily whispered. My name wasn't on her lips, it was his. I pushed the door. It creaked. They turned. Time stopped. Lily gasped. Michael, oh my God, this isn't... Ethan jumped off the bed, half-dressed. Listen, man, I can explain. I stared at them. The air felt too heavy to breathe. Explain what? How my best friend ended up in my bed with my wife. Michael, please. Lily grabbed the sheet around her. It's not what it looks like, I laughed. It came out broken. Then tell me, Lily, what does it look like? Maybe I'm missing the artistic angle here. Ethan took a step forward. It was a mistake. We were drinking, talking about you, and you decided to honor me by screwing her? My voice sounded calm, but my hands trembled. He looked at the floor. It wasn't supposed to happen. I swear, man, Lily cried, I was lonely. You're always gone for work. I needed someone. I stared at her, the woman I thought I knew. So you picked my best friend? She sobbed harder. I didn't plan it. It just happened. Right, I said quietly. Accidents happen. Like love, vows, loyalty, they just slip and fall sometimes. Ethan muttered. We didn't mean to hurt you. But you did, I said. And you'll remember this night for the rest of your life. Lily reached out. Please, Michael, don't leave like this. We can fix it. We can go to therapy, talk about it. I stepped back. You want to fix it? Tell me, Lily, what do you want to fix? Your guilt or your marriage? She froze, unable to answer. Ethan whispered, You don't have to destroy everything over one mistake. I looked him dead in the eye. You already did. Silence stretched, sharp and suffocating. I could hear the clock ticking downstairs. I walked to the wardrobe, pulled out a suitcase, and threw in a few clothes. Lily's sobs followed me. Where are you going? She asked. Away, I said. From you. From this. Ethan moved closer. Don't do something you'll regret. I turned slowly. Regret? My voice cracked into a laugh. You've already taken that from me. I don't regret leaving. I regret trusting either of you. He tried to speak, but I cut him off. Save it. You've said enough. I closed the suitcase and looked at Lily one last time. Her eyes were red, desperate. Michael, please, she whispered. I love you, love, I said softly. You killed that word tonight. I walked out. Each step felt heavy but necessary. Down the stairs, past the photos on the wall, our wedding picture, our smiles. Lies printed on glossy paper. At the door, Ethan called out, You'll regret this! I didn't look back. No, I said. You will. Outside, the air felt cold and cruel. I sat in my car, staring at the steering wheel. My hand shook, not from anger, but from the emptiness inside me. My phone buzzed, Lily again. Then Ethan. I turned it off. The silence felt cleaner than their voices ever did. Driving away, I saw the lights of our house fade into the dark. It felt like burying a part of myself. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I was too tired to break. At a red light, I whispered to myself, What now? The answer came calm and cold. Nothing for now. But one day I gripped the wheel tighter. My mind wasn't chaotic anymore. It was clear. I thought of every moment Ethan had smiled in my face, every lie Lily had told, every promise I believed. It all formed into something sharp, focused. People think rage screams. It doesn't. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, waiting. That's what I felt as I drove into the night. When I reached a motel, I checked in without thinking. The clerk asked, Business trip? Something like that, I said. In the small room, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my hands. The ring still glimmered faintly under the yellow light. I pulled it off and placed it on the table. It landed with a soft click, a sound that felt final. I whispered, "You took everything from me, but you'll give it back one way or another." The night was silent. My chest felt heavy, but my mind was already working piece by piece. I wasn't planning to shout or fight. I was planning to build. I lay down, staring at the ceiling, and smiled for the first time since I walked in on them. Not a happy smile, a knowing one. They thought they'd broken me, but all they did was wake something they'd never seen before. "Michael, please say something." Lily's voice trembled, the kind people use when they know words won't help. I stared at the floor. What should I say? "Congratulations?" Or maybe, "How was it?" She flinched. "Don't be cruel." "I'm not," I said quietly. "Cruelty would be pretending this never happened." She knelt beside the couch. "It was a mistake. I was lonely. You were always gone." "Stop," I cut in. "You keep saying lonely like it excuses betrayal." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I didn't mean for it to happen. You don't understand how empty it felt without you." I looked at her, hollow. "You could have called me, Lily. You could have talked to me." "Instead, you called him." She buried her face in her hands. "You're twisting it." "I don't have to twist anything. It's already broken." For days, our house was a museum of silence. She cried in the bedroom. I slept on the couch. The air smelled of guilt and cheap perfume. Every morning she'd whisper, "Good morning," like we were fine. Every night she'd say, "Good night," like she believed repetition could fix what she killed. One evening she followed me into the kitchen. "You haven't eaten all day," she said softly. "I'm not hungry. You can't keep shutting me out." I turned to her. "You want me to let you in again?" "Into what? My trust, my heart?" "You burned that down." Her eyes filled again. "I'm trying, Michael. Please don't give up on us." "There's no us, Lily. There's you, me, and what you did between us." She looked lost, like she didn't know which role to play anymore, the guilty wife or the victim. I walked past her. That night, my phone buzzed. Ethan, please, man, talk to me." Me, "There's nothing to say." Ethan, "You don't understand." Me, "No, Ethan, I understand perfectly." He didn't text again after that. At work, people smiled like nothing was wrong. "How was your trip, Michael?" someone asked. I smiled back. "Productive." They laughed, clueless. When I looked in the office glass, I saw a stranger, calm eyes, steady voice, but nothing behind them. That evening, Lily waited by the door. "We need to talk," she said. I sighed. "Talking won't change anything." "Please, just listen." I set down my bag. "Go on," she took a shaky breath. I ended it with him. "It's over. I swear on everything." I raised an eyebrow. "And I'm supposed to applaud you for stopping what should have never started?" "I'm trying to fix this." "Fix?" I stepped closer. "You broke my best friend and my wife in the same night." "That's not something glue can handle," she whispered. "You used to love me." "I still do," I admitted. "That's the problem." Her eyes softened. "Then forgive me." I shook my head. "Love doesn't mean stupidity." She leaned against the wall. "I don't know how to live with what I did." "Then maybe start by not lying to yourself," I said, grabbing my keys. "Where are you going?" "Anywhere you're not." I drove around the city for hours, the streets blurring into lights. My mind wasn't screaming anymore. It was quiet, calculating. Rage burned fast, but silence stayed. I stopped at a red light, saw a couple laughing on the sidewalk, and felt a strange calm. I realized I didn't need to shout, break things, or beg for closure. I just needed control. When I came home, Lily was asleep on the couch, clutching my shirt like a child afraid of monsters. Maybe she finally realized she was one. I sat across from her, watching the rise and fall of her breathing. She looked peaceful, almost innocent. That's when I understood. Regret didn't erase guilt. It just made it quieter. The next morning, she asked, "Are you still angry?" "No," I said. "Not anymore," she blinked. "You mean that?" "I do." Her shoulders relaxed. "Then maybe we can start again?" I met her gaze. "We will. But not the way you think." She smiled weakly, unaware that forgiveness wasn't what I was giving her. It was distance. At work, Ethan passed by my office, pretending not to see me. I watched him fumble with his papers, avoiding eye contact. The guilt was eating him alive. I didn't need to lift a finger. That night, Lily tried to sit beside me. I made dinner. I'm not hungry, I said again. She sighed. You're still punishing me, I looked at her. No, I'm just learning how to live with the ashes, she frowned. What does that mean? It means, I said slowly, when the fire burns everything, all that's left is what survives. She didn't answer. She didn't understand that I was already gone, even while sitting beside her. As she went to bed, I whispered to myself, patience, Michael. Power lies in patience. And for the first time since that night, I smiled, not because I was happy, but because I finally knew what came next. The company's annual gala felt more like a battlefield than a celebration. I didn't plan to go, but my boss insisted. You've been too quiet lately, he said. If only he knew why. The ballroom shimmered with laughter, false compliments, and expensive perfume. I stood near the bar, sipping something I didn't taste, pretending to belong among people who smiled too easily. Then I heard a familiar voice behind me. Ethan's. Michael. You made it! He clapped my shoulder like nothing had happened. Man, it's been forever. I turned slowly. Not long enough, he laughed awkwardly. Still the same sense of humor. Still the same sense of denial, I replied. Before he could respond, a woman approached, elegant, calm, eyes like quiet storms. Ethan, the CEO's looking for you, she said softly. Right, he muttered, then turned to me. You remember Claire? I nodded. Of course, she smiled politely. Michael, I've heard so much about you. Hopefully the good parts, I said. She hesitated, then replied, he talks more about himself than anyone else. Ethan forced a laugh. That's enough, honey. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I'm sure. When he walked away, I glanced at her. Does he always talk like that? Only when he's scared someone will see through him, she said. I studied her face. Graceful but tired. You don't seem like someone who buys his act. She looked at the dance floor, where Ethan was shaking hands with executives. I stopped buying it years ago. There was something in her voice. Resignation, not anger. He still pretends everything's perfect, she added. Perfect husband, perfect life. And you play along? I asked. She looked down at her glass. I used to. It's easier that way. But lately, she paused. I think I'm done pretending. I nodded slowly. Pretending gets heavy after a while. Her eyes met mine. You sound like someone who knows. I let out a faint laugh. You could say that, she tilted her head. What happened to you, Michael? I took a sip, stalling. Let's just say I learned what betrayal tastes like. Something shifted in her expression. Recognition, maybe pity. From someone close? The closest, I said quietly. She didn't ask more. She didn't need to. Later that night, Ethan came back, arm wrapped around her waist. You two getting along? He asked with that same fake smile. Better than expected, I said. Claire smiled faintly. Michael was telling me about his work. Fascinating stuff. Yeah, he's always been the smart one, Ethan said, forcing a laugh. But I've got charm. We balance out. I met his eyes. Balance. That's one word for it. He frowned slightly, maybe hearing what I didn't say. We should all catch up sometime. Sure, I said, smiling. I'll make the time. After he left again, Claire sighed. He always performs. It's exhausting watching someone act like the world's gift while rotting inside. Some people mistake charm for goodness, I said. But the mask eventually slips. She looked at me, curiosity flickering. And when it does? Someone gets hurt, I replied. For a moment, we said nothing. The music softened, and laughter echoed from another corner of the hall. Two broken people surrounded by fake perfection. She asked quietly, Do you ever stop feeling angry? I don't know, I said. Maybe you just learn to hold it differently, she nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. He's not who he pretends to be. Her words hit me like a reflection I didn't want to face. Maybe one day, I said, you'll stop pretending too. She smiled sadly. Maybe one day, you'll forgive whoever hurt you. I'm not sure forgiveness is part of my plan. She raised an eyebrow. Then what is? I looked toward Ethan, laughing across the room, unaware that the walls were already cracking around him. I'll let you know when I decide. She studied me. You sound dangerous. Only to the ones who deserve it. Claire laughed softly, the first genuine sound I'd heard all evening. Maybe we should talk again when the masks come off. Maybe we should, I said. When the night ended, she walked past Ethan and whispered, I'll be in the car. He muttered something, distracted as I held her gaze for a second longer. There was understanding there, not attraction, but recognition. As I watched them leave, I caught my reflection in the bar mirror. My expression was calm, almost peaceful. 2 mirrors, both cracked, hers from years of neglect, mine from betrayal. But maybe, together, those cracks could turn into edges sharp enough to cut back. That's when I knew how my revenge would begin. Not by destroying Ethan, but by giving Claire everything he'd taken from her. And maybe, in that reflection, I'd finally see something whole again. I told myself it wasn't revenge. Not yet. Just a favor, an opportunity to help Ethan's wife. Claire, I said one afternoon at the cafe near her studio, you mentioned your art business was struggling. She sighed. Struggling is polite. It's gasping for air. Then let me help. Her brow furrowed. Help? Why would you do that? Because you're talented, and because I hate seeing potential wasted. She studied me for a moment. You don't owe me anything, Michael. Maybe I want to, I replied. Consider it. An investment. In me? She asked softly. In what you create, I said. Her lips curved, unsure whether to smile or doubt. You sound like someone trying to fix the world, I shrugged. Just trying to balance it. The next week I visited her studio. The place was small. Paint-splattered floors, unfinished canvases stacked against the walls. I liked it immediately. This is your chaos, I said. This is my life, she replied with a quiet laugh. Ethan thinks it's a hobby. I walked past the easels. He's wrong. He usually is, she murmured, and something in her tone carried years of exhaustion. I leaned against the table. You ever think of doing a showcase? I've thought about it, she said, but I don't have the funds or the network. I can help with both. She turned sharply. Why? Because art deserves light, I said simply. And because you deserve to be seen. She blinked, caught off guard. You talk like someone who's seen too much darkness. I have, I said. But I learned something in it. What's that? That silence is the sharpest weapon. She looked puzzled, then smiled faintly. You're strange, Michael. I've been called worse. We started meeting often, her studio. The cafe, sometimes late-night calls when she couldn't sleep. One night, she said, You ever feel like you're living someone else's life? All the time, I answered. What do you do about it? I build a new one, I said. Quietly, she laughed softly. You make it sound easy. It's not. But it's better than waiting for someone to save you. That night, she told me about her childhood, how she painted because silence at home scared her. I told her about my father, a man who taught me to never beg for truth, only to expose it. She listened like no one else had. You're calm when you talk about pain, she said. I learned to wear calm like armor, I replied. Days turned into weeks. Her studio began to bloom. New canvases, brighter colors, even a small exhibit scheduled downtown. She texted me one night. I sold my first piece today. Thank you. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. You did that yourself. But I knew the truth. I was orchestrating everything, quietly, deliberately. Every smile she offered him now came from something I'd built. Every time Ethan saw her glow, he saw my reflection in it. A few days later, he called. Michael, he said cautiously, you've been spending a lot of time with Claire. Is that a problem? I asked. Not at all, he lied. Just surprised, that's all. Maybe you should ask her about it, I said. He hesitated. You trying to make a point? Not yet, I said, and hung up. The silence that followed tasted like victory. Claire noticed his tension but didn't understand it. He's been different lately, she told me. Quiet, suspicious. Maybe he's realizing what he's been missing, I said. She smiled. You always know what to say. I've had practice. From who? From people who taught me what not to be, I said. She leaned forward. Who hurt you, Michael? I met her eyes. Someone who made me believe love was a lie. And now? She asked. Now, I said quietly. I prefer truth. Even if it burns, her gaze softened. You don't deserve to hurt anymore. I don't, I agreed. But some people do. She didn't understand what I meant, and I didn't explain. As she laughed that night, genuine, bright, unbroken, I realized how intoxicating it was. Not her laughter itself, but what it represented. Ethan's undoing. He couldn't confront me without confessing his betrayal. And I knew that silence would eat him alive. My revenge wasn't chaos or shouting, it was calm. It was watching him crumble while I offered the comfort he'd once faked, and when Claire smiled at me again, full of trust she didn't know was misplaced, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Control. Lily stood at the glass door of my office, her reflection trembling more than her body. Michael, please, she whispered as she stepped in. Just hear me out. I didn't rise from my chair. You already said everything the night I found you. It wasn't what you think. I leaned back. You mean it wasn't you and Ethan in my bed? She flinched. It was a mistake. I was lonely. You were always gone. Working, I said. Building a life for us, her voice cracked. And I felt invisible in it. Then you found a way to be seen, I replied coldly. Tears slipped down her face. It didn't mean anything. It meant everything, I said quietly. Because it showed me who you are. Please don't do this, she begged. I love you, Michael, I almost laughed. You love comfort. You love being adored. You love mirrors that lie back to you. That's not fair. It's honest, she stepped closer. Can't we start over? There's no we left to start, her lip trembled. You don't have to punish me. I'm not punishing you, I said. I'm just done pretending, she wiped her face. You've changed. Good, I said. It means I learned something. What did you learn? That love without loyalty is just a performance. Her shoulders sagged. You sound like someone rehearsed that line. I did, I said, standing. Every night since you broke me. She stared at me for a long time, as if searching for the man she'd destroyed. I'll wait, she whispered finally. Even if you never forgive me, I watched her leave. The door clicked shut, and for a moment I felt nothing. Not pain, not anger, just the dull ache of release. That evening, I went to the bar near the river. A quiet place, low lights, familiar anonymity. The smell of whiskey and regret filled the air. I sat alone until I heard a voice behind me. Michael, I didn't have to turn to know. Ethan. He slid onto the stool beside me. You've been avoiding me, I smirked. You think I owe you attention? Look, he said, rubbing his temples. I screwed up. We both did. But this? Whatever you're doing, it's making things worse. For who? I asked. For Claire, he said quickly. She's confused. She thinks you actually care. I turned toward him. Maybe I do, he blinked. Don't play that game. This isn't a game, I said. You played yours in my house. His jaw tightened. You're ruining my marriage, I smiled. Aren't you the expert on that? His face darkened. You think this will make you feel better? It already does, I said softly. Watching you sweat, he leaned in. Claire doesn't deserve this. Neither did I said. But here we are, he grabbed my sleeve. If you tell her, I won't have to, I interrupted. You're unraveling on your own. He stared at me, realizing I meant it. You've changed, he muttered. I adapted. This isn't you, he said. It's exactly me, I replied. The version you helped create. He exhaled sharply and looked away. You're playing with fire, man. I'm not afraid of getting burned, I said. You should be. He slammed his drink down, the sound sharp against the counter. You're sick. No, I said, meeting his eyes. I'm healing, slowly, precisely. He stood, his voice low. Stay away from Claire, or what? I asked. You'll betray me again? His silence was the only answer. I watched him leave, his posture stiff, his confidence cracking like glass under pressure. For the first time, I felt something close to satisfaction. Not joy, not triumph, just the quiet taste of justice served cold. The bartender glanced my way. Everything all right, sir? I finished my drink. Better than ever. When I stepped outside, the night air hit like truth, cold, sharp, real. I stood by the water, watching the reflections ripple. Two faces lived inside me now. The man who once believed in love and the one who now believed in silence. Lily's tears, Ethan's fear, they didn't heal me, but they reminded me who held control. For months, they'd lived inside my mind rent-free. Now I owned the lease. I lit a cigarette, something I hadn't done in years, and watched the smoke fade into the night. Forgiveness. I realized wasn't part of the plan, only clarity, and clarity, I decided, was enough. The gallery was glowing. Soft lights, champagne glasses, and the quiet hum of success. Claire's paintings lined the walls like windows into her soul. I stood near the corner, watching her move through the crowd. She caught my eye and smiled. "You showed up, I promised, didn't I?" She exhaled with relief. "I didn't think anyone would care this much." "I cared before it became a success," I said. "This is just the world catching up." Her laugh was soft, genuine. "You always know what to say." "I just tell the truth." Ethan appeared near the entrance, half drunk, his tie crooked, his eyes scanning for her. When he saw us talking, his jaw tightened. Claire noticed. "Oh God, he's here." "Let him be," I said. "Tonight's about you," she hesitated. "He hates when I talk to you." "Then talk louder," I said.
"He doesn't get to own your voice," she smiled again, this time with something stronger behind it. Defiance.
"You make it sound so easy." "It's not," I admitted. "But it starts somewhere." Before she could respond, Ethan pushed through a small group of guests. "Claire," he snapped. "A word." She tensed. "Ethan, not now." "Now," he insisted, glaring at me. "We'll talk later, Michael." I met his stare. "We could talk now if you'd like." He laughed bitterly. "You'd love that, wouldn't you?" Claire stepped between us. "Ethan, please, not here." He grabbed her wrist. "You've been spending too much time with him." Her voice trembled. "He's my friend." "Your friend?" He spat. "Is that what you call this?" "Ethan," I said evenly, "you're making a scene." "Stay out of my marriage," he growled. "I didn't walk into it," I replied. "You did." His eyes flared, but Claire pulled free and walked away, straight toward one of her paintings, a bright swirl of gold and blue. "Do you even see it, Ethan?" she asked, pointing at it. "It's called Freedom. I painted it the day you told me I wasn't good enough." The crowd had gone silent. Ethan's face turned red. "You're humiliating me." "No," she said calmly. "I'm existing without your permission." He stormed out, muttering curses under his breath. When the guests began clapping softly, Claire just stood there, tears welling but proud. I walked to her side. "You handled that beautifully," she shook her head. "I didn't plan to, I just couldn't take it anymore." "That's what strength sounds like," I said. Her eyes met mine. "Why do you always know the right thing to say?" "Maybe because I've been where you are," I said quietly. She studied me. "You've been betrayed, haven't you?" I hesitated. "Once. By someone you loved?" I nodded. She looked down. "Then you understand how lonely it feels." "I do," I said. "That's why I want to see you win." "Win?" she asked with a small smile. "Yes, to rise so high he can't reach to pull you down again." She exhaled slowly. "You've been my light in the darkest time, Michael." Those words hit harder than I expected. I wanted to tell her the truth, that her husband slept with my wife, that all this started as a plan. But when I saw her, alive, radiant, I couldn't. Not yet. "Claire," I said softly, "you did this. You rebuilt yourself. With your help." "Maybe," I said, "but the fire was always yours." Later that night, when the crowd thinned, she found me again. "He'll come home angry," she said. "Let him," I replied. "He's losing control. That's what happens when people start to see the truth." She frowned. "He's been drinking more, saying things that scare me." "Don't let fear guide you," I told her. "He only has the power you give him." She looked at me with a trembling smile. "You make it sound simple." "It's never simple," I said. "But it's possible." When she left, I stayed behind, watching her walk out into the night with her head held high. Ethan stood outside across the street, hidden in the shadows, watching her too. When he noticed me, he glared. His expression wasn't anger anymore, it was panic. The kind that comes when a man realizes his empire is collapsing and there's no one left to blame. I didn't move. I just met his gaze and smiled faintly, because finally it was working. The revenge, the silence, the slow unraveling. I turned away from the window, my reflection overlapping with his across the glass. One broken man watching another fall, and for the first time in a long time, I felt alive. The pounding on my door was violent. 3 sharp hits, then a shout. "Open up, Michael!" I didn't move. I wanted him to yell. I wanted him to break first. The banging came again. "I know you're in there!" I unlocked the door and stepped aside. "Come in, Ethan. You're already used to entering places that don't belong to you." He shoved the door open, his eyes wild, face red. "You think you're clever, huh? You think I don't see what you're doing?" "I think you finally do," I said calmly. He threw his hands up. "You're stealing my wife!" I smiled faintly. "You already stole mine." That stopped him. His anger flickered into confusion. "What did you just say?" I took a step closer. "You heard me." The hallway light behind him shifted, and I saw Claire standing there. Her expression was pure confusion, her voice barely a whisper. What are you talking about?" Ethan turned sharply. "Go home, Claire. This isn't your business," she frowned. "I am your wife. Everything about you is my business." "Please," he hissed, "just go." "No," I said quietly. "Let her stay. She deserves the truth." Claire looked between us. "What truth?" Ethan's voice cracked. "Michael, don't," I stared at him. "You didn't think I'd keep it buried forever, did you?" "Michael," he said, lowering his tone, "you'll ruin everything." "Everything's already ruined," I replied. "You just didn't notice when it happened." Claire's voice trembled. "Someone tell me what's going on." I looked her straight in the eye. "The night I came home early from a business trip, I found Ethan in my bed, with my wife." Her lips parted, disbelief flooding her face. "No, you're lying." "I wish I were," I said softly. "But I saw them, both of them." Ethan stepped forward. "It wasn't like that." "Then tell her what it was like," I said. "Tell her how many times?" "Tell her why you looked me in the eye the next morning and asked about my weekend." He clenched his fists. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," I cut in. "You wanted what I had. You just didn't expect me to take something back." Claire turned to him, eyes wide. "Is it true?" Ethan looked away. "Claire, please answer me," she shouted. He froze. The silence was enough. Her voice broke. "How could you?" "Claire, no," she cried. "You told me he was jealous of you, that he envied what we had." He swallowed hard. "It was a mistake." She laughed bitterly, tears streaking her face. "A mistake that lasted long enough to destroy 2 marriages." I said nothing. I didn't need to. The truth was louder than any words I could add. Ethan turned to me, desperate. "You think this makes you better than me? You think you're righteous?" "I don't need to be righteous," I said quietly. "Just honest." Claire backed away, her hands shaking. "I thought you loved me," she whispered to Ethan. "I do," he said quickly. "You're everything to me." "Then why was she enough to ruin it?" He had no answer. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. I walked past them both, grabbing my jacket. "I think I'll let you two talk." Ethan grabbed my arm. "You did this on purpose." I looked him dead in the eye. "No, you did this on purpose." I just let the truth breathe. He released me, his voice trembling. "You'll regret this," I smiled faintly. "I already did. For years." Claire turned toward me. "Michael, why tell me now?" "Because you deserved honesty," I said. "Even if it hurts." She nodded slowly, tears falling. "Thank you. For not letting me live in lies." Ethan's voice cracked behind her. "Claire, don't do this." But she was already walking toward the door. "Don't follow me," she said without looking back. He stumbled after her. "Claire, please!" The door slammed. The silence that followed was thick, almost sacred. Ethan leaned against the wall, defeated. "You ruined my life." "No," I said. "You ruined mine. I just returned the favor." He sank onto the couch, face buried in his hands. For the first time, I saw him break. I opened the door and stepped into the night. The air was cold, clean. Each breath felt lighter, as if the weight I'd carried for months finally dissolved. The truth was out. And it burned everyone but me. Lily called me out of the blue. Her voice was shaky, weak, like a paper-thin mask of the woman I used to know. "Michael, can we talk?" she asked. I didn't rise from my chair. "About what?" About everything, she said. I need closure. Closure, I repeated, a faint smile tugging at my lips. Funny, do you think anyone will trust you again? She flinched. I'm trying to fix things. Fix things? I asked. You shattered them, Lily. Pieces don't go back together just because you want them to. I know, she whispered. But I'm learning. You're learning, I interrupted. Too late. People see the truth now. They see what you are. Her sobs came through the line. I never meant to hurt you. And yet, here we are, I said softly. I hung up. It wasn't satisfaction, it was just observation. Some things couldn't be fixed. She had burned bridges and everyone smelled the smoke. Ethan was worse. Claire had filed for divorce quietly but decisively. The man who flaunted his charm, who once smiled at his own lies, now sat in his empty apartment muttering to himself. I met him once at a cafe. His face was pale and the laughter he once wore so easily had disappeared. Michael, he said cautiously, we can talk. Can't we? Talk about what? I asked, sipping my coffee. He shifted, uncomfortable. About Claire. Maybe you misunderstood. I understood perfectly, I said calmly. You lied, cheated, and thought you'd get away with it. You watched her bloom and smiled while she owed her happiness to me. That's not cleverness, Ethan, that's failure. He froze. You're enjoying this. I wouldn't call it enjoyment, I said. Observation is more accurate. He clenched his fists. She still loves me. I can fix this, I laughed quietly. She doesn't love who you are. She never did. His hands fell to his knees. You don't know. I know enough, I said. I saw what you hid behind your charm. I watched it crumble without me touching a thing. Claire was different now. I visited her studio last week. She had brighter colors on her canvases, new ideas, new energy. Her laughter was effortless, not borrowed from someone else's approval. You've helped me more than you know, she said, smiling at me over a fresh painting. You helped me see who he truly was, I nodded. I didn't do it for you, she tilted her head. No? I did it because the truth had to be seen, I said. By both of you, her brow furrowed. You never told me. About Lily? Not yet, I admitted. Some truths aren't for everyone. Some are just lessons. She studied me but said nothing. I liked her silence. She was strong enough now to carry it without breaking. Meanwhile, Ethan's career collapsed. Clients left after rumors surfaced. Colleagues avoided him, seeing the man behind the facade for what he was. Selfish, reckless, unreliable. The man who stole from me now had nothing to lean on. I didn't gloat. That's the difference between him and me. The revenge was not mine to celebrate. It had already done its work. Later, Claire and I walked through the empty park, crisp night air around us. I feel free, she said softly. You are, I said. Finally. Thanks to you, she added. I shook my head. No, you did this yourself. I only helped you see it, she smiled faintly. Still, you gave me courage. I glanced at her. Courage is different from justice. Mine is quiet. Yours is visible. We stayed silent for a while, listening to the wind rustle the leaves. I thought of Lily and Ethan, two lives unraveling, lessons painfully learned. And me, standing between the aftermath and the future, feeling hollow. Revenge has a taste, I realized. Bitter, cold, and strangely unsatisfying. You imagine victory will fill a void, but it only reminds you of what was lost. I exhaled slowly, watching the shadows stretch across the path. Claire walked beside me, independent now, unafraid. I had my revenge. But I had also lost something along the way. Innocence, trust, the ability to believe fully in love again. It was victory, yes, but it was a hollow kind. Like a room stripped bare after a storm, and for the first time in months, I felt the silence of it all settle over me. Months passed, and the city I once knew became a distant memory. I sold the house Lily and I shared, packed the remnants of a life that no longer existed, and moved to a place where no one knew my name. I found solace in quiet streets, coffee shops with soft music, and evenings spent alone. The world outside continued, unaware of the storm I had survived. One night, Claire called. Michael, she said softly, how are you? I'm surviving, I replied. Surviving, she repeated, as if tasting the word. That's better than I expected. Better than I expected too, I admitted. Some days it feels like peace. Other days just noise. I understand, she said. I still think about that night, the truth. So do I said. But it doesn't hurt as much now. It teaches, Claire laughed lightly. You make it sound like a lesson instead of a wound. Lessons are cheaper than pain, I said. She paused. You've changed, haven't you? I have, I said quietly. I'm not the man I was. Not the one they betrayed. What do you see when you look in the mirror? She asked. I studied my reflection that evening. Sharp lines I hadn't noticed before, eyes colder but steady. Someone unfamiliar, I said. Someone stronger. Not innocent anymore. Does it scare you? Sometimes, I admitted. But fear doesn't rule me anymore. Betrayal teaches you that survival isn't about trust. It's about control. Control, she echoed. Do you think you've found it? I do, I said. It's quiet, subtle. You don't flaunt it. You don't need to. You just are. Her voice softened. I envy that. I envy your calm. You would if you saw the cost, I said. What cost? Naivety, I said. Innocence. Belief that people mean what they say. That love doesn't hurt. Claire's silence answered more than words could. I went out later that evening and walked past a park bench where an elderly man was feeding pigeons. I stopped and watched, realizing how different life had become. I could see their freedom without envying it, their routine without longing for it. The world carried on, and I had learned to carry myself within it. One afternoon, Claire met me at a small cafe. You're different, she said again. More solid. Different isn't always better, I replied. It's just necessary. Survival reshapes you. Necessary? Yes, I said. Betrayal doesn't break you completely. It rebuilds you, but the foundation is colder, firmer, sharper. I can see that, she said. But does it hurt less? Not exactly, I said. It changes how you feel pain. You feel it, but it doesn't blind you. You see through it. We sat in silence for a long moment, sipping coffee, watching people pass. Life was moving around us, unbothered, unbroken. Do you ever think about revenge? She asked softly. I shook my head. That chapter is closed. The satisfaction is empty. The lesson matters more than the act itself. You've grown, she said. Stronger than before. Stronger, yes, I admitted. But not untouched. I've learned that trust is fragile and betrayal is permanent. You can rebuild, but the walls you construct are your armor. Sometimes they're beautiful, sometimes they're cold. Claire smiled faintly. You wear them well, I nodded. Better than anyone could know. But armor isn't warmth. We parted that afternoon with a quiet hug, a connection preserved in honesty rather than illusion. Pain had forged our understanding, and that alone was enough. Later, I looked in the mirror again. The man staring back wasn't the one betrayed in silence. He had survived. He had adapted. He had become someone capable of observing without falling, feeling without surrendering, living without reliance. I touched the glass lightly. Hello, I whispered. The reflection didn't answer. It never needed to, because I was finally the man I had become, strong, cold, alive. The mail arrived early, a plain envelope with my name typed neatly on the front. I almost didn't open it, expecting bills or something mundane, but when I read the handwriting inside, my breath caught. Michael, I wanted to thank you, it began. I leaned back in my chair, reading slowly. Claire's words spilled across the page. She had moved to a new city, started over, found work she loved, and built a life without him. You saved me without meaning to, she wrote. I laughed quietly, a low, bitter sound at first. Then it shifted. Something warmer, something I hadn't felt in months. Saved you, I muttered. Funny, I barely knew I was trying, she continued, describing the small joys she had discovered. Morning coffees in quiet cafes, painting without fear, laughter that wasn't borrowed from anyone else. I smiled faintly, holding the letter in my hands like a fragile object. She's happy, I whispered. Really happy. I remembered the nights I had spent thinking of revenge, counting the ways I could hurt him, imagining the cracks in his life. And now, it had happened quietly, naturally. Karma, patience, and truth had done their work. I set the letter down and called her number just to hear her voice. Hello? She answered, soft but bright. Claire, I said, and for once my voice didn't carry the weight of plans or pain. It's Michael. Oh, Michael, I didn't expect to hear from you. I read your letter, I said. It made me smile. She laughed lightly. Good, I wanted you to know. You moved on well, I said. I'm glad. I had to, she replied. It was either that or stay trapped in his shadow forever. Did it hurt? I asked. All of it, she admitted. But I finally understand. I can't change what he was or what happened, but I can choose who I am. That's exactly what you should do, I said. You're stronger than he ever realized, she hesitated. And you, Michael? Have you found peace? I paused. The answer came slowly. I think I'm getting there. The man I was, I've left him behind. You sound different, she said. Calmer. I am, I said. Quiet, maybe, but alive, finally. We spoke for a few more minutes, exchanging small updates, work, friends, minor victories. Nothing heavy, nothing needing explanation. Just a connection rebuilt on honesty rather than shared pain. After the call, I drove to the ocean. The sky was pale blue, the waves gentle but endless. I remembered Lily's words from years ago, her dream escape. I hadn't realized how much I had carried her voice in my mind. I stood at the edge of the water, the sand cold under my shoes. I let the wind whip through my hair, the waves crashing rhythmically as if the world itself was breathing with me. I whispered aloud, goodbye. Not to her. Not to Claire. Not even to Lily. I said it to the man I had been, the man betrayed, angry, consumed by plans of revenge. The man who needed justice to feel alive. The water reflected the sun in shards, like fragments of memory dissolving into something larger, something peaceful. I closed my eyes and breathed. The bitterness of the past year washed away, leaving something quiet, stable, and undeniable. Revenge had ended. Healing had begun. I thought of Claire. Out there somewhere, laughing, painting, living without fear. I thought of Ethan and Lily, both shadows now, reduced by their own actions. I thought of myself, standing here, free of anger, free of obsession, free of needing validation. Finally, I whispered again. I watched the horizon stretch endlessly, each wave breaking softly against the shore. Sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's the quiet satisfaction of survival, the silent peace after chaos. I folded the letter carefully and tucked it into my jacket pocket, a reminder that truth, patience, and honesty carry weight beyond revenge. I took a step closer to the water, letting the wind whip my face. The past had its place, but it no longer ruled me. The ocean roared softly, the sky gleamed faintly, and I smiled. I was ready to live.